Hey team, Seb here from Tough Cookie Training, and today I was going to help you guys structure your training week, because one of the most common answers that I get when people come into Tough Cookie Training, I always ask, what is it that you feel you need from me that you don't currently have? And one of the most common answers is knowledge and structure. I don't know if what I'm doing and where I'm putting my energy and focus is the right thing to help me get my result. And programming is one of the things that I often get complimented for by the people who follow Tough Cookie Training. And so I wanted to share with you some things that you can try to consider and implement in your own training to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. There's really a few different elements that, like, programming and structuring training can get really complex. But if we stick to some fundamentals that you can add into your training and make sure you're getting it done, it's going to really benefit you and probably heighten your results. So the first thing to consider, there's a few different components, but the first thing to consider is your strength training. Regardless of what you want to achieve in this world, strength training is going to be probably one of the non-negotiables. And I would say from 2 to 4 days per week of strength training, because strength training, there's a phrase that I like to use, which is strength is the vehicle. Basically, strength training is the thing that allows you to do other things. It allows you to move, it allows you to have robustness and resilience to things like injury. It's really important for long-term health and longevity. But strength is kind of like the fundamental components, the foundation of movement. So working on strength training is definitely something that should be in your training program 2 to 4 days a week. How that looks can be very, very variable depending on a multitude of different things, but making sure principally that strength training is in your weekly structure is going to really, really help. The next thing to consider is going to be conditioning. So conditioning is a word that can be interchanged with a few different things, but essentially we're focusing a little bit more on increasing your heart rate and your breathing rate in order to improve your aerobic capacity, your VO2 max, your capacity for movement, the amount of times your body can repeat a contraction or a muscle can repeat a contraction. So we're looking at your body being able to do more. So not necessarily exert a big force, which is strength training, but being able to exert force multiple times, whether that be a very, very tiny amount of force like pedaling on a bike, or whether that be a bit more of a force like a dumbbell snatch or something, or a kettlebell swing. But doing it enough that it is elevating your heart rate and working on your heart health and your lungs. The next thing and I would say that wants to be in your training 1 to 3 times a week, depending on what your goals are, but at least once a week I would say that's pretty important, but that can go up to potentially 3 times a week. If you're an endurance athlete, that's probably going to go more, and that will overtake the strength work, but the strength work still needs to be in there as a fundamental. So conditioning 1 to 3 times a week, potentially more depending on what your goals are. The next one is going to be skill work, and this is the one I think gets overlooked quite a lot. Everybody is super, super focused on the compound movements, the big lifts, the stuff that gets the work done. And that is correct. It should be the priority. Doing your big strength compound lifts and movements, or kind of getting your endurance and your cardio work done, absolutely, 100%. But what skill work does is gives you more tools to your toolbox. It essentially means you've got more options that you can use in your training. And I like to think of this as giving you the ability to get better faster, because if you've got more ability to do more things, more tools in your toolbox, then not only are you getting from A to B, but you're increasing the rate at which you get from A to B. So I think that at least once a week, or scattered within your strength training, or like I call it like micro-dosed within your strength training, having some skill work in there, some skill development, doing things that you can't do very easily that are pretty technical, is going to be a really useful thing to do. Not only that, but it also helps improve things like coordination, balance, and things that maybe get overlooked a little bit, but are really useful for supporting your body. Then the last one is recovery. And recovery is, again, a non-negotiable, and at least kind of 1 to 3 days per week should be allocated to recovery. And recovery, yes, it does mean rest, but it doesn't just mean rest. Recovery is about kind of getting movement and getting things flowing, like you're getting your heart rate slightly elevated potentially, moving your muscles, but creating a stimulus without creating a stressor that then needs to be recovered from. Because if you're doing that, then you're not engaging now in recovery, you're adding to the total load of stress that your body's having to recover from the week. So instead, we're trying to find like a nice low level, easy amount of movement that is going to encourage kind of the delivery of proteins and the movement of blood around the body, and loosen off muscles and get joints moving and all these good things, but without adding more that needs to be recovered from. So this could be going for a gentle walk. Potentially it could be like doing a bit of yoga or a nice slow swim or just something. In with that also, of course, kind of actual rest, full rest, if that's what you need, especially. And it also depends on how much you've done throughout the week. But these 4 components, if you are adding them into your training, strength training, conditioning, skill work, and recovery, you're probably going to be doing a really good job of getting a good training effect out of your weekly structure. Team, I hope that's been useful. It does go a little bit deeper, and there are more things to consider, like your total lifestyle, your age, how well you recover, your nutrition, and all of these things. But in terms of the practical structuring of training, that's going to be a really good starting point. What that looks like on a day-to-day basis is going to vary as well, again, depending on your lifestyle. It could be that if you are a complete beginner, it kind of doesn't really matter about the structure too much because anything is going to help. But as your training age increases and you do more, you might want to consider things like working on movement patterns on different days, or even splitting days into different intents, like a strength focused day followed by a conditioning focused day, a recovery focused day, and so on and so on. But that goes a little bit further into the details of it that might require some more expert guidance. And that's what I'm here for, team. So if you are looking for that knowledge that's going to help you get the most out of your training and get you that return on investment for your efforts, then please reach out to me and I'm happy to help. I'm Seb Cook from Tough Cookie Gym based in Leeds, and I'm here to help you guys get fitter and stronger.